director John Callis brings us Lone Wolf, a 1988 low-budget werewolf movie. It's kind of The Breakfast Club meets The Wolfman, is the best way I would describe it. It focuses on a group of unlikely, different people from this high school, all from different kind of social circls. You've got the nerds, the popular girl, the kind of the bad boy kids, a kind of rock chick groupie, all end up having to kind of band together to try and outwit a werewolf, which has had a rash of killings in and around this local area. Could it even be one of these students? It could be the werewolf. As the film goes on, you know, clues are given. Who will be the werewolf? You have to watch the movie and find out. So let's talk about it. So this is kind of like a whodunit style movie in some regard. The werewolf isn't revealed until the end. There's obviously a variety of suspects. Some people, you know, are kind of given motivations and seemingly like red herrings. So there's an idea here that it keeps you guessing about who the werewolf might actually be, and there could be any number of targets. Some targets are clearly kind of obviously red herrings and things, but nonetheless, it's a fun game. Obviously, trying to kind of figure out who might be this kind of werewolf. And our cast of characters, I mean, we'll come on to it again. They're a little old to be playing high school students, but nonetheless, they make for a kind of a fun group, and there's quite an interesting kind of culture clash, so to speak, where I suppose our main character, this Eddie guy, who is this lead singer of this 80s hair metal band, and one of the other kind of people is this, well, actually two of them are these kind of rock chick groupies, and he's got his band, and they have a big school fight with the kind of the popular kids at school. So it's like these kind of heavy metal kids versus the sort of like the jocks and stuff. It's quite a kind of a fun little culture clash there. So yeah, there is some kind of like interesting kind of character dynamics here. I think, you know, we have this kind of the nerdy character, the kind of the boffin, and he ends up getting a kind of a love interest, which is, but it's not typically who you might necessarily associate with that type of character, which I kind of found quite interesting and a little bit, you know, different to the norm to a large degree. The werewolf is kept to a minimum, but it works in a way because the werewolf effects aren't brilliant. We do see a reasonable amount of it in a kind of the final sort of showdown in this school, where there's a couple of kind of like gorier sort of deaths and things, but the actual werewolf costume itself, obviously 1988, it's all sort of a practical effect, and you know, there's some elements where I think it looks okay, but you know, it's a low budget movie, let's just kind of call it that. But the movie's largely sort of somewhat kind of character driven by these kind of like sort of cabal of unlikely sort of teammates now who have to sort of join together, and it's these sort of different types of personalities having to kind of work together to try and, you know, overcome this kind of common goal. So there's some kind of fun elements. It's a kind of a goofy movie in many ways, and it tries to have somewhat of a comedic edge at times. Whilst it's never a particularly kind of funny film, there are a few, you know, wry moments here. They reference Michael J. Fox because obviously he was in Teen Wolf, which would have been a relatively recent movie when this kind of came out. So, you know, there's some fun lines here and there. What doesn't work in this movie, we see precious little of the werewolf, as I say, and it's only glimpses here and there until we get to the sort of finale, and even then I wouldn't say you ever really get a huge extended sort of look. And when we do see it, they've chosen to go for, like, you know, a werewolf who is still wearing his human clothes, even like a cardigan and things. It doesn't really look that threatening, I have to say. It looks kind of goofy. I mean, I guess, you know, if it's not particularly bulky up, I suppose it might well be wearing its human clothes, but it doesn't really look all that sort of impressive. There is a sort of a quasi transformation sequence. But again, it's a very sort of low budget movie. As I've alluded to, the cast here is like 40-year-olds playing like 17-year-olds. It's ridiculous. I mean, these people look so old to try and be like teenagers. I mean, there's that sort of cliche, especially with kind of movies from like the 80s and stuff. But this really does sort of take the biscuit. I mean, it's so bad and so obvious. Like, you can clearly see like stubble and stuff from some of these, like where they have to try and shave it down and that. It's really, they're not fooling anyone. Let me put it like that. And then the actual acting itself, it isn't brilliant. You know, so you've got older actors pretending to be teenagers. I'm presuming they couldn't find suitable younger actors, but the actors they did pick, I mean, the lines aren't brilliant. And it's a low budget, cheapy 80s movie. But yeah, you know, it's not the best acting, to be honest with you. And it's a little bit, they have these sort of character moments, but I really didn't find it rang true to a degree. It's kind of fun, but it ends up being like so sort of cliche, like our kind of our main guy, Eddie, I suppose. You know, he's meant to be this sort of badass and stuff, but you know, you never really ever feel like you get to kind of know him. And when the werewolf is revealed as well, we know so precious little about the situation there. Like, we don't really know if like the werewolf is aware that the person is a werewolf, or are they controlling it, or do they remember anything? It's so sparse in regards to that sort of like fleshing out of this world. It really just seems like a high school movie with like weird sort of massively old stereotypes, to be honest, for the most part. There are some kind of moments here where it tries to be comedic and it just ends up being so silly. I mean, for example, with the police officers, there's like one of the kind of like the police officers is playing as a joke, and it just comes across as almost like a spoof character to a degree. Ultimately, this isn't really an essential werewolf movie, I suppose. If you are just an ardent werewolf fanatic, you may want to check it out one full moon. But I have to say, if there's better werewolf movies out there from the kind of the same sort of time period here, it is low budget. So obviously we do have to accept that, you know, there are restrictions in place here, but nonetheless, I give it a 4 out of 10. It's really kind of a little below average, to be honest. Have you seen it? What were your thoughts? Leave me a comment, and I shall look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.